we decided we could add a lot more character to the game by adding Lord Order, implying he's more of a galactic overlord and that he's part of the acclamation of the heroes that are fighting. We wanted to give him really powerful, sweeping, kingly gestures to imply that this guy is badass until he gets beaten up by 5 heroes. When we started developing Blizzard Dota, we started with things we already had. Kerrigan was an ideal candidate. She appeared in Wings of Liberty, and she essentially already had every function we needed to start making heroes. We just simply adapted her by giving her more team color so she had a better read from the game view camera. We also started experimenting. The Dwarven Marauder is an ideal situation where we decided we could blend the Warcraft and StarCraft universe into this character. The Marauder proportions are really close to Dwarven proportions, and by adding weapons, the spears on the back and the helmet, we got a really interesting character that we blended up. And we're definitely going to try experimenting in appropriate places with this more often. Nova is a key example of something the designers were really interested in because they wanted to see a ghost character. They had a lot of ghost abilities already implemented, and they said, we're going to use a ghost. And as artists, we asked if we could implement something a bit more visually pleasing than the standard ghost we have in the Terran army. And you'll see in some other slides, we like to use iconic characters whenever possible, even if we're defining a hero by a basic role. Tassadar is kind of an ideal example of this. The initial build of Tassadar, he was a sentry, just a regular old robotic sentry. Not that cool to look at, and we definitely liked the Protoss vibe. We thought, it feels Protoss-like, so let's pick a better Protoss character to represent it. Luckily, we had Tassadar from Wings of Liberty, and all we had to do really was make a new crest on his back to kind of make him look more epic. So now we have a new hero, Uther. Uther was another hero that design had established early on that they wanted a healing class. They really wanted a healing-centric character, and through discussions, it seemed like the Paladin kit would be fitting best for him, and it's kind of appropriate that the first Paladin character in the Warcraft lore is also the first Paladin in StarCraft Dota, representing the healing classes. Arthas, on the other hand, was a different story. Arthas is awesome. Like, let's just put him in the game. That's what we said, and they had no idea what they were going to do. There was no design agenda for a Death Knight, but the art was there, and the art had a lot of potential. So, in a kind of backwards fashion, the art came first, and then design decided to make some really cool Death Knight-centric abilities to make Arthas work. Thrall, once again, shifts over where they had a shaman character type. They said, we want to use Bloodlust, we want to use Totems, we want to use Lightning Shield. Naturally, we decided, let's use our most well-known shaman character, and we picked Thrall. When we picked Thrall, though, we already had a character that was an orc, the Blade Master. And so we decided to make Thrall a bit more distinct and change his silhouette by mounting him on a Cyberwolf. The Cyberwolf and Thrall initially were the same thing. Thrall was just mounted on a wolf. He didn't move faster. There was no gameplay functionality behind him being on a wolf. This was interesting. It's a different physical read. It's a different silhouette. It's unique. Unfortunately, what we discovered, and we learned this lesson a long time ago as well, and it came back, is that when you create a character on a mount, you have to scale it down. So the character on the mount has to have the same pathing footprint and take up the same area as a character on foot. The bummer is Thrall becomes very small. He doesn't look epic anymore. He doesn't look like a war chief. It doesn't feel like Thrall. Why should we use Thrall? We had this problem in Warcraft 3 as well. It essentially came back to haunt us, and we really had concerns about this. We wanted it to look epic. So we discussed with the designers and voiced these concerns. We asked if the mount system could be better integrated into the game. They had already had things they were talking about with the boots, and they decided, well, maybe we can take boots out of the game, and we can make the mount an actual part of the game design. And that's kind of how it came around, is we wanted to see Thrall looking his best mounted, and we wanted the mount to have more significance. And this is kind of the best of both worlds, because now we have Thrall mounted up. The mount actually signifies the fact that he'll be moving faster and has a roll, and plus we can dismount Thrall, and he looks just as cool stomping around smashing heads. Finally, we have the D3 Witch Doctor. I was really excited to see this character get put in the game, because this is the first time we've incorporated Diablo universe characters into Blizzard Dota. And this guy has a bit more of a subtle blending of universes. You can see he has a Troll Witch Doctor head as his familiar totem, as well as a Zergling skull on the back of his hip. we're really looking forward to mixing these universes more. There's a lot of potential here. It's going to be a lot of fun. This is a character that we have in the works right now. It's a Goblin Tinker. The Goblin Tinker is going to be a construction-based hero. He's going to build all sorts of turrets and launch pads, stuff like that. His ultimate ability is his armor. He jumps inside of it and it becomes a Goblin-style marine suit. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're basically making a Goblin SCV, and we'll see how it plays out. We're also looking into hero skins, hero variations. All the heroes we had last year, they're coming back. We just wanted a smaller amount of heroes for BlizzCon. But you can guarantee that we're going to explore things like alternate costumes, putting Stitches in a marine armor instead of a Zerg Carapace suit. Things like that. We're still deciding what we're going to do, but there's a lot of potential here. For example, we can make any of these characters. Or any of these characters. The sky's really the limit. I mean, I don't know what we're going to end up doing, but there's a ton of really cool universe characters that we can pick and really make Blizzard Dota unique. Finally, sadly, this model was not prepared for BlizzCon. Stupid, I know. But Illidan is really, really cool, and he's on deck right now. They're concepting out his hero kit, and you can see from the animations coming up, he's going to be a really, really fun hero, and it's going to be cool seeing him and Arthas square off. So thank you for your time, Blizzard Convention. I guess we're going to Q&A.
Hi guys. In the art we've seen so far of Kerrigan as a human, we've seen her in her suit that glows blue and glows orange. Is there a significance to those colors? And in the Blizzard manual here for BlizzCon, it shows her arm transforming back into Sarah Kerrigan as the Queen of Blades. Can you talk about that at all?
We can't really talk about that stuff without giving away any kind of story hits. So we just have to say stay tuned, and yeah, I mean, obviously the whole expansion is focused on Kerrigan, so we try to do as much as possible to make her stand out and be unique and add even more depth to her character, but we can't really tell any details.
Your observations are not in vain. You're onto something.
Hi, question about the engine. You talked about making low quality looking better than before. Are you doing anything to make higher quality for people on high-end graphics cards look better? And in a related question, what are you guys looking for in DX11, and what do you think of using that?
Yeah, we're always looking to expand on every quality level. So there's certainly things that we're going to improve. So the cinematic scenes in particular would use these special effects on Extreme that we add in a patch. So we're kind of looking if we can actually transport some of these advanced features from the cinematics to the in-game stuff. So we're kind of still deciding that out, but there's definitely going to be improvements there. And then as far as DX11, we've been kind of looking into it. I've worked on DX11 porting the game. It takes a while, and we can still achieve a lot with DX9 still, and that everybody has access to this. But yes, we're definitely looking into this, though I couldn't give you exactly when that would happen, that we would move over to DX11.
I saw that there were going to be a lot of new mechanical units. Can you go into some detail about the drivers of those vehicles?
Bill, you want to handle this? Are you referring to the Hellion and the Merc Commander and stuff like that?
Yeah.
The Merc Commander, the Warhound, sorry, we've changed the name a couple times. The Warhound is more of a seasoned, kind of surly looking, higher up military figure, so he'll have a bit of the battlecruiser captain flavor, but light. And I believe the new Hellion is going to kind of be a bit more of the same, but a little sexed up and stuff like that. And the Shredder is essentially just a drone robot, so I'm sure we're going to get something very similar to the Mule portrait. I don't know yet.
And for the Protoss units, like the ships?
The Protoss ships, we definitely have a couple new Protoss portraits we've made that have Protoss pilots. One of them, we're looking to put another female character in the cockpit of one of the ships to get more female Protoss presence. And the replicant is essentially a robot, so we're probably going to have something similar to the Phase Prism portrait for that.
I just want to thank you guys for showing us the tech behind some of this and how long it takes for a game to come. I actually don't have a question. I just want to say thank you for everything that you've done and put into this game so we can play it.
What's your name?
Craig.
Thanks, Craig.
Thanks, Fred.
Thanks.
All right, I actually have two questions. The first question is if anybody here has been following the development of Wings of Liberty before that was released, the carrier was replaced by another unit called the Tempest. You know, exactly somewhat like the one that you have here, except it's now a carrier, or it was back then a Dark Templar carrier. My question is, or my first question is, what exactly inspired you to shift away from the recolored carrier Tempest that you were going to use back then versus the half Corsair, half Star Relic model that you're using now?
That's a great question. I'm glad you actually noticed the old Tempest. It's a kind of funny story. We were first putting everything together. We had the press come out, and we said, hey, cool, here's our new units, and the Tempest was one of them, where we said, okay, you know, we like the carrier. He's a great classic unit. It's one of my favorite ones. But like we need to put a new spin on him for for the sequel, obviously. So we made the DT version. He had like little shurikens instead of interceptors, and it was in the build for about 3 weeks. And by the time the magazine came out with all the new previews, that he wasn't even in the game anymore. So I think one of the reasons was that unit was still a carrier in a lot of ways, where you could build specific units, and it kind of, I mean, it looked the same. It was just the whole DT spin on it. In this case, we're like, okay, let's get a totally different mechanic, and it really replace them, wholeheartedly instead of just a little cosmetic twist.
And my second question is, how big of a backlash do you think you're going to get from taking out the carrier again? Because it didn't work out so well the first time, so maybe a second time will be the charm?
I have a lot of faith in our designers, and we play a lot of games internally, testing this stuff out, and it's a blast. I mean, I've heard repeatedly, like, this is the best StarCraft has ever been, so I just have a lot of faith that we'll continue testing it. We'll go through the whole beta phase, of course, get all your guys' feedback, and again, please check it out on the floor yourselves, and give us as much feedback as possible.
Hi, do you guys know if map makers are going to have access to that physics engine when we're making custom abilities?
Yeah, you're going to get access to all that, and the previous panel had the Star Tools thing, so you'll be able to make your own models, rig them up, and even like take different models and actually build, like the Terratron, right? The Terratron was kind of building different models. You could probably mesh a whole ragdoll kind of setup with that kind of thing.
Hi. So I know that StarCraft 2 is optimized for dual core, and I think that's because the game's kind of old. Like, the design's been going on for a long time. I was wondering if Heart of the Storm's going to be optimized for tri-core, dual core, or quad core.
Yeah, we actually didn't specifically target dual core. It's just that happened to be how it kind of balanced out, right? And there's actually more than 2 cores, but yeah, the third and the fourth one was actually very low. So this is a constant process. It's not necessarily just going to be Swarm. Wings of Liberty, we're going to patch it up, and as we make performance upgrades, Wings of Liberty will get the same thing. So the answer is yes, we're going to target more cores. As we just need to kind of recode some of the engine to take advantage of that.
Thanks.
Yeah, one of the cool things I like about the Protoss is the Dark Templar unit, and he has 2 separate models. And I was wondering, in the future, do you think that could be something a little bit more common, spread throughout all of the other different races?
When we built the Dark Templar, we realized that the potential to do duplicate units like that was partially because he's cloaked, and he's a rather vague unit. So your first visual read, you're like, oh, okay, I'm seeing something cloaked, so it's Dark Templar-like. A lot of our other units, we can't take those advantages because if we change the physique too much, it doesn't look like what it was a variation of. If we change the Marine too much and change the shoulder pad shapes and the other proportions, people start going like, well, is it a Marine or a Marauder? And we have to be really careful in doing that. The benefit of the Dark Templar being cloaked basically gave us free reign to say, well, you only see him at 50% resolute or opacity anyways, so if he's slightly different shaped and has a different look, we can kind of get away with it because the cloak will tie it all together. It's really tricky, and believe us, we want to do that stuff. We don't get too many opportunities to do that without breaking the game. You can even see it with mercenary units and Wings of Liberty. If we use mercenaries and mix them in with the regular units, it'd start getting really muddy really fast.
What about something a little bit more simple, like separate textures where like there'd be